Hello, my name is Mark Howell, and I am the Senior Technical Marketing Engineer for ShareFile Enterprise. Today, we'll install and configure ShareFile Storage Zone Controller software version 2.2 and link it to a Microsoft Azure storage container. Then, I will demonstrate how the software works. The Storage Zone Controller Server is currently supported on Windows Server 2008 R2 Service Pack 1 and has the following prerequisites: IIS with the ASP.NET and Basic Authentication Role Services, an SSL certificate signed by a public certificate authority, and Microsoft.NET version 4.5. Let's start by installing the prerequisites. Open Server Manager and select Roles. Select Add Roles. Click Next. Select the Web Server IIS role. Click Next. Click Next again. Select the ASP.NET Role Service and click Add Required Role Services. Scroll down to the Security section and select Basic Authentication. Click Next and click Install. I'll pause the recording while this installs. Once the installation is finished, close the Add Roles Wizard window and close Server Manager. Next, we will need to install Microsoft.NET version 4.5. I'll pause the recording while this installs. Once the installation is complete, click Finish. The next step is to allow the ISAPI and CGI restrictions on the .NET version 4 extensions. To do this, open IIS Manager and highlight the primary IIS site. Select ISAPI and CGI restrictions and right-click both ASP.NET version 4 extensions and set to allow. Now we'll need to import a signed SSL certificate. Go back to the primary IIS site, select Server Certificates, Import, navigate to the location of the certificate, click OK. We'll need to bind this to HTTPS by going to the default website, selecting Bindings on the right-hand side, click Add, select HTTPS, and select the certificate you just imported. Go ahead and click Close, and close the IIS Manager. Now we need to create a shared folder that the ShareFile controller will use to temporarily store file uploads before being copied by a background service to the Azure storage container. Right-click the folder and select Share with Specific People. Add an account, which is typically a service account, and give that account full control. Click Done and close Explorer. You'll need to download version 2.2 of the ShareFile Storage Zones controller software from Citrix.com. Double-click the MSI file, select Run, click Next, accept the license terms, click Next, and install. When the installation is finished, uncheck the Launch Storage Zone Controller Configuration page box and click Finish. You'll be prompted to reboot. Go ahead and click Yes and reboot the server. Okay, we're back. Next, we're going to configure the Storage Zones controller software. So you go to Start, All Programs, Citrix ShareFile Storage Zones Controller Configuration page. Enter your ShareFile administrator account information here. Password. And in the subdomain field, make sure you enter the complete address and not just the company name. Bullet, create a new zone, give it a name. The host name is the host name of the server that you're actually installing the software on. The external address is the publicly addressable, fully qualified domain name of the storage zone host. Check Enable Storage Zones for ShareFile data. In the Storage Repository window, click the drop-down and select Windows Azure Storage Container. The shared cache configuration is the folder that we created previously in this recording. I will come back and put the username and password in a minute. And the Windows Azure configuration comes from your Windows Azure account. I know my storage account name is my first initial last name, but to get my access key, you go to the account, go to Manage Access Keys, and it's the primary access key listed here. Copy it to the clipboard, navigate back, paste it, and once you validate it, it will provide you a list of available containers you have in your account. So select the appropriate container, and now we can go back and enter the shared cache username and password of the ShareFile service account that we used earlier. Scroll down, enter a passphrase, and re-enter that passphrase, and click Register. Once the registration finishes, you'll see this message that the storage zone has been configured successfully. You can now close the browser. Finally, I will demonstrate how storage zones using Azure Storage works. First, I want to show that the Azure Storage container I used when creating the storage zone doesn't contain any binary large objects or blobs. So I'll navigate to my Azure account. This is the container I used when creating the storage zone. And inside this container, currently there are no binary large objects. So let's go over to ShareFile. I'll navigate to the admin storage zones. And you'll see that the Azure zone that I created is currently healthy and is not being used. By clicking in that zone, you'll see that the storage zone is responding and there are currently no users or folders configured for this zone. So let's change that. If I go to Manage Users, Browse Employees, select the employee that I am currently logged in as, I'm going to change that employee's default storage zone to Azure Zone. And I'll scroll down and I'll click Save. Now, when I navigate back to that storage zone, you'll see that the user is currently configured now to write to the storage zone. So let's upload some files. If I go to Home, Upload Files, choose Files, I'll select these 6 files, click Open, and Upload, and this will take 1 second. Okay, so it looked like about 12 megabytes of information was uploaded. So now when we navigate to the storage zone, you'll see that, yep, 12 megabytes are in use, and that user 10 is currently consuming 12.3 megabytes. Now, when we navigate back to our Azure account and refresh this container, you'll see that all 6 files are now stored up in Microsoft's Azure storage. This concludes the configuration. If you want more information on ShareFile Enterprise, please visit our website at citrix.com/ShareFile. In addition to that, please check out the technical brief I wrote called Provisioning ShareFile on Microsoft Azure Storage, located at the URL displayed towards the bottom of the video. Thank you.